And I am a realtor in Maryland, and I joined Subto in April, about mid-April. And David and I have been working together here on this and that for about, has it been a month already?
I think it has been a month.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it has been a month. You was in real estate, right? In Maryland.
Yes.
And how did you get started there?
So actually, there was a handful of times when I thought about getting into real estate and becoming a realtor, whether either I was thinking about it or other people were like, you know what, you should be a realtor. And I thought about it, but the last time that I got into it, I think it was on Facebook, and well, the last time that it was presented to me, and I decided to actually go after it finally. I was on Facebook, and I saw a girlfriend of mine who I went to high school with, and she was doing a Facebook Live. She was at an open house. And so I texted her and I'm like, hey, how you doing, sweetie? And she was like, hey, fine. I'm just, sitting at this open house. And she's like, why don't you come by and visit? And we'll like chit chat in between visitors. I'm like, okay. So
Mm,
I went over and we sat down on the floor, and we were I hadn't talked to her in a while off of Facebook. So it was really nice to see her in person. And we just sat on that at that open house and talked for like 2 hours in between visitors and stuff. And she's like, you know what? You should really become a realtor. She's like, I'll take you under my wing and show you the ropes. And that was that. That was when the real estate market was just starting to it was on an upswing, and buyers were becoming more and more plentiful on the market at that time. So it was just starting. So I actually got my license in June of 2018.
okay.
Mhm.
2018. So you started in 2018. How
Mhm.
was Baltimore back then? Because
It was,
Baltimore has you used to have a bad reputation.
well, yeah, because people are thinking about the city when they say Baltimore. And there's really like, if you divided the city into four parts, I mean, usually it's like I live outside of the one of the nicest parts of the city. So I'm in Baltimore County, but I'm like on the other side of where the really um crime stricken, I guess you could say, parts of Baltimore are.
Where was your focus on when you started your real estate? What was the area that you really most focused on?
So when I started, I joined Coldwell Banker with my girlfriend Judy, and we were working out of our office was actually in Fells Point in Baltimore in 2018. And so she also has another business that's really like her bread and butter and her full-time thing. She was doing a realtor part-time, but her and her husband, who I also knew from high school, they were high school sweethearts. They have like a contractor home renovation type company together.
Mm,
So she wasn't there a lot to really show me the ropes. I mean, she taught me some good things. But then I had other friends, because I was doing it full time. I just jumped in full time. And I had some other friends that are like, look, when you get started in real estate, what they say is true. They in real estate school, they're not teaching you how to be a realtor. Like a very small percent you'll ever use in the field. You have to learn how to be a realtor like out in the field once you get started. So there was another person that we went to school with named Lee Tessier,
right.
and one of some of my friends were like, why don't you join Lee's team? Because when you join a team, when you first start in real estate, they're the ones that are going to train you,
Mm,
and they're going to teach you everything you need to know, and then you can go off on your own. So I went and met with Lee, and he's very prominent up, and I'm in Baltimore County, and then like Northeast is like Harford County. So he's like big time up in Harford County. He's been doing it since we graduated. So he's very established and has a really good reputation. So I joined that team, and oh my gosh, life was great. It was so awesome. I loved it. I learned so much from him and his team. And then the pandemic happened.
What happened in the pandemic? How did that go? Went from hero to zero?
Well, I mean, there were a lot of buyers on the market once they started lowering the interest rates.
Mm,
But that wasn't the only thing. That it wasn't like everybody's like, okay, we'll just find a new way to do things. I mean, some people were like that, but the pandemic was like really rocked everybody to its core. So everybody, more so than work, a lot of people had this personal thing going on, you know? I mean, everything we knew was turned upside down. So everybody was like in shock and a little scared and, self-reflecting and reflecting on life in general. So, I mean, it didn't just disrupt our work, it more so disrupted everybody personally. So that was just like, that's kind of when I started going, oh my gosh, this is like, what is going on? Like, a
mm,
lot of people started questioning everything. Whereas before, we were just, going through life like, oh, we know how to do this.
mm.
All of a sudden, no, you don't know how to do this. Everything can be taken away like that. Kind of, it messed with people's mindset, basically.
Right. Now, let me ask you this. That was a time where there was a lot of protesting, right? Like towards the end of the pandemic, there was protesting over there.
Yeah, and even before that, years ago, before that, I remember I was bartending and waitressing when those Baltimore riots were going on.
Mm.
Do you remember that? Seeing that on TV and stuff? I was a hairdresser
I
then,
only saw what
and
was on,
and
I was
bartending and waitressing.
I only saw what was on TV. So you know how
Yeah, it was on TV.
there were probably like one person protesting and then they showed crowds. So I don't know. I don't believe
I
nothing that's been.
don't even remember how they started. The Baltimore riots were like, I think Obama was president then when the
Mm.
Baltimore riots were happening. They were all over the news.
Were they close to your area?
No, they were on the other side that I was telling you about.
Were
They
you
were
part
on
of
the,
the riots, Shanna?
huh?
Were you
What?
part, were
No, no,
you burning cars?
no. What is the point in that? It was like a
Yeah.
lot of the people that lived there were destroying their own city, like
I have no idea.
only hurting yourself. I don't understand.
I don't know.
Did they get any results that they wanted by doing that? Or I don't even know. I still don't know.
Not at all. I understand anger, but that's not the kind of way to do it. But whatever, it is what it is. People do it.
Yeah. And was it, I think maybe it may have started as anger, or some of them may have been angry, but I think most of the time when you see that kind of stuff going on, my personal outlook on it is that it's like the teacher left the classroom and everybody just wants to go crazy. Hey, we can do whatever we want. Let's throw paper and overturn desks and blah, blah, blah. I think it was more so that,
Mm,
more so people that lack a lot of self-discipline than it was
mm.
they're trying to make a point. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Yeah. I
Kind
mean,
of what it looked like to me.
also you have the factor that, you see a big crowd kind of doing something and then you just want to join the party. You probably
Right.
have no idea what's going on, but you just see it happening, so you want to just follow.
Yeah, I mean, we all remember being in school and then the teacher left the classroom, and then, for the first couple minutes, everybody's like, okay, we're behaving. And then after like 15 minutes go by, it's like, hey, you know what? We are unsupervised. Let's
There-
just get a little rowdy. And then the teacher comes in, it's like, all right, everybody sit down, get back to your done. you know.
how did Baltimore recover in your opinion? Right? Like you're still in real estate now, so how were you able to get back on track with business with all of that happening and the pandemic?
Well, let me tell you, everybody thinks that realtors are rich. That's not true.
Mm,
I mean, we make good money on transactions depending on what our commission split is with our brokerage and how much business we do. Um, however,
So
when the interest rates started going down, you got to remember there was a pandemic going on. Most of the sellers were like, I'm not selling my house right now. Because
Mm,
there were very little houses for sale and there were a ton of buyers on the market, which led to 30, 40 people all trying to outbid each other for one house, right? So if you put yourself in a realtor's position, not a lot of people want to sell. So you're mostly helping buyers. If
mm,
you're helping buyers, you're competing with like 30 other people on every house. You're doing like 10 times more work for the same amount of money, basically, because you're going to have to lose probably, I don't know, 5 to 10 um, bids or offers before you finally get one accepted because there's so much competition out there.
mm,
And then, the sellers were also thinking, even if I do feel like selling my house right now and getting more money for it, where am I going to go?
right.
Because there's very little for sale out there right now. So there was that. And then towards the end of that, um, there was an investor buying frenzy
Mm,
going on
mm,
like a year later.
right.
And it was just crazy times. It was the people that had been in real estate for a while before that were just they had all of them were saying, we've never seen anything like this. This is just absolute nuts.
Mm.
So
How did the investors coming in affect the real estate people? Were real estate agents losing out because investors were coming in, or were the investors
yes.
losing real estate?
So as I understand it, BlackRock and some other companies were lending out a lot of money to investors, and they were coming in with cash offers. I had I'll give you one example. I had this one couple that I was working with, helping them buy their first home, and it was ridiculous. They were highly qualified. They had money, they had great credit, they had good income, they were highly qualified. In a normal situation, we could have got them a house like that.
Mm,
But we were losing left and right on investors
mm,
outbidding us with cash because they were getting all these loans from, these companies.
gotcha.
So finally the offer that we got accepted, there was owned by someone who that was like their first home and they were renting it out.
Right.
The person they were renting it out to was like, hey, I don't want a bunch of people walking through here. I live here, and the renter was buying her first house. So they had it set up to where there was only like 1 or 2 times a week for a couple of hours where the listing agent would be there and everybody had to come and look at the house at that time. And we were walking through and I'm a very social person. Plus it's just, good to always make good new connections. So when there's that type of situation, I'm like, go ahead, guys, go ahead and look around. I'm going to talk to whoever, whether the seller's there or the other agent's there or whatever. So I'm talking to the other agent and I was explaining to him, we're just like, oh my gosh, isn't this like crazy? Everything that's going on right now. He's like, I know, right? I'm like, in a normal situation, this family that I'm helping right here, I would have no problem at all. They're so highly qualified, and I'm having such a hard time getting them into a house.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that explaining that to him was good. And I made the connection there with him, and that was good too. And there were investors walking through.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, so finally we got the notification that our offer was accepted. And I was like, oh my gosh, how'd that happen? Yay. So then when we went to do the home inspection, the renter was there
Mm,
and she said, oh yeah, yours wasn't the highest offer. And I was like, well, how did we get accepted? She's like, it wasn't the best one. I'm like, how did we get accepted? She said, well, I showed my owner, my landlord, there I have cameras that record.
mm,
And one of them said to the listing agent, I'll give you 30 grand over asking for this
wow.
house. Because he knew he was going to make a good return on it, right? 30 grand over asking, all cash. And they took our offer instead because the owner, that was her first house, and
Mm,
she favored a family situation over an investor.
okay.
And we found out because the tenant had cameras that recorded. And I was like, so I was so thankful, not just for me, not really for me, but for this family that I was trying to get them into a home. I mean, I get a little over attached to my clients, being sociable and stuff. But so I was so thankful. I even got closing gifts for the listing agent and the seller. Because I was like, thank you so much for helping this family get a good start in such a crazy time. And yeah, it was a really good, pleasant experience. But yeah, all the way up to that.
All right. So then fast forward now, you did the real estate, you're back on track. Now how did you get into Subto?
So I was, like I said, ever since the pandemic, for the 2 years that followed, I was kind of like uncertain of the future. Not really depressed, but just like, what is going on? How's this going to play out? Like, oh my gosh,
Mm,
and I went on YouTube to look something up on YouTube University, something about real estate.
mm,
And I saw Pace Morby popped up and I was like, oh, who's this guy? What? No money down. What? So I clicked on his video and I watched it. And then I just started down a rabbit hole because as soon as I watched it, I was like, oh.
yeah.
I said, oh my gosh, like the Mandalorian, this is the way. And that's why I got that little Yoda, baby Yoda there with the Subto hat. Like Subto, this is the way. I was like, this is how we get through this real estate market and the craziness and everything else. And ever since I discovered him, I didn't join Subto for a little while later because I started getting busy with some other things. Like my children were visiting from out of state and the holidays, and I was getting ready to start a podcast and all this stuff. And then I finally joined Subto when the market really started coming to a screeching halt, then I was like, okay, it's time. Let me join this Subto and see behind the curtain.
Right.
And I have been in it for what, 3.5 months now.
How do you like it so far?
I tend to lose focus and interest very easily and a lot faster than most people. And I am still 3.5 months later, blown away every single day. Like, I am just so excited about helping people with affordable housing and literally just helping to move this whole industry, this whole real estate industry as a whole,
Right.
um, in a positive direction
Okay.
with what Pace is teaching and everything else that he's coming up with new stuff all the time. But the best thing personally about Subto is totally 100% this community. I mean, like great people every day like you.
Definitely a lot of good people came from this community.
Yes. And it's growing so fast.
Yeah.
And I really feel like humanity in general is like leaving a time of competition and entering a time of co-creation. And that's why like you're going to see a lot of like communities and a lot of the normal way of doing things are like breaking down. Like more people watch YouTube than they do regular TV anymore. Like regular TV is like, I
Yeah.
feel like going bye-bye a lot. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah. It's definitely falling in the hands of the people now rather than,
Yes.
big tech companies. So
Like
what
with the
current
internet and stuff, where it's so much easier for us all to connect and be all connected, and things like communities and stuff. This is just really helping us evolve big time in a positive way.
All right, cool. What current projects do you have and what teams have you taken a part of or been a part of since you've been in there and been in here actually, because I'm actually in here as well.
Yes. So like I was telling our audience, meeting you was great. We have Zoom meetings that all day, every day, and we can hop into whatever one we need to learn about what specific thing we feel like we need help with at that time. And I met David here, guys, on being on those Zooms and just, being busy in the chat, and then, maybe doing some role play on camera with the leaders of the Zooms. And so David and I were like, yeah, there's this program that Pace just started where it's teaching us, and it's like you can get in it if you want. You can join whatever program you want that he has going on. But this one really caught my eye because I was already thinking about doing a podcast. And then he was like, hey, I'm gonna teach you guys how to do podcasts and YouTube and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I am in, because I had to kind of put my podcast on pause. Because once
Yeah,
I joined Subto, I was like, shiny object syndrome. But
yeah. Who's
so
your who's your favorite who's your favorite I don't want to say Zoom guy or leader in sub 2?
that's really hard to choose. I call them the OGs, and my kids will laugh at me because OG is like slang for original gangster, for those of you that don't know.
Mm,
And my kids are like, Mom, you were just so not cool. Just stop trying. Just stop it. You know how kids are. But so the OGs of Sub 2. Sub 2 is only 3 years old. The community is only 3 years old. He literally started that community during the pandemic shutdown.
yeah.
Started the Zooms and everything. And the leaps and bounds that this community has made since then is just amazing.
Yeah.
But, get me back on track again.
Your favorite
Oh,
leader.
favorite Zoom leader. Yeah, or Sub 2 leader. So I have a handful. It's really hard. They're all
Lot
so
a
great.
lot of them, right? You have Caroline Kane, you got Jason Lombardi, you got
Caroline Kane is great with the newbies. I'm telling you, she's really good. As soon as you start and you're just like, oh, there's so much to see and do. Like, where do I start? How do I get some traction? She is so good. She's like the mom of all the newbie students. And she's like, come here, little baby duckies, follow me.
yeah,
So she's really cool with that. And Shad is one of my favorites.
he's cool.
He's very business minded and very focused and very technology driven, and he's like the integrator type,
Yeah, he's definitely an integrator. He's
like
definitely
me too. And I'm like, I scored super high on that test as a visionary. Like I was 93 out of 100. So I usually gravitate towards the counterparts that fit well with me, like you. You're really tech savvy and stuff like that too.
mm,
Um, So Shad is great. Who else? Keston Glasgow.
yeah, he's pretty cool.
He's great with the mindset. Oh
Mar
my gosh. What was that?
Him and Marlon.
Yes. I love Keston. He is so insightful. I would just like be on his Zooms and I would just be like, oh yes. Thank you, Keston. I so need to hear that today. Thank you for getting me on track. And I mean, he's phenomenal.
Yeah,
Uh,
he definitely opens up your mind a little bit more.
Ty Guerrero, who
Like
is actually a
some
realtor and a broker in
guy.
California.
Yeah, he's the man. He's definitely, they're all pretty good, man. Jason Lombardi. Yeah, you have on the underwriting,
Yes.
forgot his name. Dustin Kershaw. He's pretty good. He's dope.
Yes. Yes. I
Mm.
love the variety of personalities
Yeah,
and
everybody's
seeing
cool.
how each type of personality
Hmm.
like really does a lot. Um I love the guys on Nightly Dial. Like
I have
every time I am on the Nightly Dial, it's kind of like I feel like I'm hanging out with my buddies, and I'm always like, there's always a point in time whenever I'm there that I bust out laughing. It's like,
yeah.
and I love like, so I used to work for police department when I was younger. I worked in the office, and in high school, even like I don't know, I just love like being in it's like so fun for me to like be in a being around a group of guys who are like cracking on each other.
You work for the police department, like you put on the outfit.
No, I wasn't sworn personnel. I worked in the office.
Oh, okay. So you was just like administrative.
Yeah, so I was civilian employee.
Oh, okay,
But
okay.
it's just like it's fun for me to see. I don't know why, but it's just hilarious when I see people cracking on each other and it's all in fun and they're not getting their feelings hurt. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's like the first thing you see whenever you log on to like Nightly Dial, the guys that are running the thing, they're
Yeah.
like cracking on each other. It's just like so
I haven't gone to the nightly dial really. I haven't, maybe probably once, but usually by that time I'm probably, doing the family thing.
it's totally good times.
So like my son comes out, I gotta take him to karate, I gotta take him to baseball. So that those
Yeah.
to make it to the nightly dial. The only
Maybe check out the Zooms or whatever.
I'm
I
zoomed out.
mean,
Yeah, I
the
do the
recorded
morning
ones.
Zoom. I do two Zooms in the morning. Some of the executive Zooms are on Tuesday. Then I do
You can
Tony.
get zoomed out easy.
Yeah, I did Tony. Tony counts. On I do her bookkeeping Zoom because
Mhm.
I'm finance. This is my
It's really good to get started, but at some point you got to back off of them a little bit once you feel connected and learn it enough to get started. You
yeah
got to kind of back off of them a little bit and get some work done and start doing some work. And then it's always good to, even when you're doing really well, to attend at least like 3 to 5 Zooms a week
yeah.
instead of a day, like when you first start.
You're always
That
learning
way you
something.
can stay connected with people and
Yeah, you're always learning something. I start my day like 6, sometimes 4:30 in the morning. So those early Zooms is as easy for me. You know,
yeah.
those are like breakfast, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
That's almost lunchtime for you, right?
and then I end the night, I go to the shard Zoom at 9:30 and then I wrap it up, if that finishes around 10:30, then I wrap it up around 11
Wait a minute.
o'clock, 11:30
The Shad Zoom at 9:30? He
at
comes
night
on at
at night.
12. Oh, at night. Okay, I was gonna say. And it's even harder for us on the East Coast because most of that stuff is Pacific time. So,
Yeah.
when they're doing all this stuff in the morning for them, it's like the second Zoom, the West Coast Daily Dial starts at 10 a.m. for us, but
Mm-hmm.
it's only like what 7 a.m. for them. So
Yeah,
it's very easy for us over here on the East Coast to waste an entire day once
yeah.
you see the Zooms that you need to see.
Well, yeah, so I mean, you kind of, it's really the person, right, holding it, and
Mhm.
also the people, because people come, you got to understand that people that are participating in the Zoom, they bring in their own little nuggets as well,
Mhm.
just by participating,
Mhm.
so I know they want you to take action and whatnot, and I get that,
They're
but
giving back to the community, and then
yeah,
at the same
some,
time, they're also getting something out of it too because they get to do deals with people. People get to know them, and
yeah, sometimes you
get
get
to
to
do
just
deals with newbies.
you what's going on, and you just learn, and on top of taking action as well, but it's there's always something. But the people that host the Zoom create, and I mean, all of them, they all have their own little ways of kind of doing things, so it's a good variety, so you could always pick and choose which one you want to go to, and then stay like about.
Crichton at first, when I first go to Crichton Zoom, I gotta sit there for a minute and like because I swear, he looks and sounds like Ben Shapiro. He is Ben Shapiro's doppelganger.
Cool.
Crichton.
Oh,
Oh my god, like totally.
oh, Shapiro, gotcha. I know who he is.
I'm like, I gotta sit here for a minute. Okay, this is Crichton, right?
Yeah,
He's very smart and very insightful and very
yeah,
successful.
yeah, yeah. He's definitely he brings it to the game. Yeah, but so
Such great
have
people in this community.
yeah. So you have any current projects that you're working on in the community with community members or anything like that?
Yeah, so I am partnering up with a couple of people in my local area. And my focus right now on acquiring properties is pad splits. I feel like there is a dire need for affordable housing. Not everybody needs to rent a whole house or rent a whole apartment, and rents are just crazy ridiculous.
Oh
And
yeah.
they want to go up.
Oh
They're
yeah.
continuously going up. So that being said, for all of you out there who don't know what a pad split is kind of like property management meets Airbnb. So they have their own site that you go onto. If you
Or
they're
room
a regular house with
instead of marketing
several
that
bedrooms in it, and you rent the bedroom weekly. You rent the room weekly. It's room rental.
room rental. There you go.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And so if you are in town doing work for 6 weeks, you can rent a room for 6 weeks instead
Yeah.
of having
Yeah. That's gonna be super useful because even me, when I go to New York, you know, renting a hotel for $300, it's not it's not
right, a night. Yeah, $300 a night.
oh, you could do
So what
300.
if you could do 150 or 200 a week?
All
You're
I
saying,
need is a room. It's like I don't need all the bells and whistles. I just need a room, internet, and where I can lay down, and that's it. So
right?
at $300 for 2 weeks, that's right up my alley.
Mhm.
Instead of $300 a night. So and you gotta watch your dollar nowadays.
Right, right. And if you are in town for work and your company is putting up the bill or whatever, they usually give you a per diem. So they may give you a higher per diem than what you need to use for a pad split rental, and you got some extra cash in your pocket,
Hmm. Yeah.
That's
So
another good thing
definitely a
about
good idea. Affordable housing definitely catches my eye. So I'm actually learning that. I forgot the guy's name. The guy I watch his videos. I'll check it later. But I've been learning a little bit on how to kind of like work that area. It's pretty interesting.
I
Um,
even rented out some rooms in my house at one point in time years ago. So
you gotta make
I
money.
know.
You
As
gotta
soon as
make
I saw that, I was like, ooh.
Yeah, you gotta make money. So then basically what are your future goals? What do you think you're gonna be having in like 6 months, a year, 5 years, so on and so forth? Do you have that plan
I
outlined?
feel like a lot of people are going to know me all over the place because my two podcasts are going to be huge, and I'm going to have a large presence on social media. I'm going to have a team put together. Um, when you first join Subto, you pick two markets. And it's
Mm,
always good to have one of those markets where you actually live. You want to start in your backyard in an area that you know for several reasons.
mm,
And then my second market, I picked the Carolinas because I like for the longest time I wanted to move down to Florida, and I went down to Florida last summer, and it was
mm,
like I've always been one to get cold easy, but let me tell you, that was really hot. So I was like, well, maybe I could have like a little vacation place there and go there, like be a snowbird or something. And then I want my like other home during the summer to be like in the Carolinas.
mm, mm.
So that's like my personal future goals. I would love to live in North or South Carolina and maybe have a place in Florida because I've always loved Florida.
Yeah.
Um, and I also would like to, I have a couple of rough ideas that I haven't really refined too much because I got to get smaller stuff accomplished first. But
Hmm.
like, I've always wanted to talk to my daughter. My middle daughter is like huge on animals. She is an animal lover. She doesn't want to have any kids. She's just always all about animals. So one of the things that I've been talking to her about for years is like, Sam, I would love to have like an animal rescue place, and like you could head it up, like you could run the place. I would love to have an animal rescue. So that's one thing.
Hmm.
And then another aspiration of mine of how I want to get back to humanity besides affordable housing is since we have since this child trafficking thing has just gotten out of control.
Yeah.
Um, you know, they're getting more people to, head up the rescue operations. But when that movie came out, Sound of Freedom, I was like, okay, if we get more people to be, rescuing them, where are they going to go? You can't just pull somebody out of a traumatic situation like that and just throw them right back into society. Like, where are they going to go?
Mm,
So then I started Googling stuff one day, and I was like, I found this one ranch that's in Texas because Texas is one of the hot spots. And it takes like a while. It's kind of like a rehab for someone who has an addiction, except it's for like child trafficking. And they help, they have like people to help them deal with the trauma that they've been through. And it's a slow, gradual process. And they, help get them ready to get back to a normal life and give them some opportunities and so forth. So because this epidemic has just blown up exponentially and gotten super out of control over the last few years, I noticed there's not a lot of those places to go.
Mm,
So I reached out to this ranch and they never got back to me. But I was like, hey, I'm a I'm a beginner investor, and like I would like to I'm interested in purchasing some properties for places like yours for these rescued children and even adults to go to,
mm-hmm.
so that's like another future give back to humanity aspiration of mine, to have some rehabilitation centers.
I have a name that you might want to reach out to in regards to that. I just heard him speak in the last meetup, and
Yeah, a lot of people like Pace has even raised so much money for them recently. I
see,
think he even met with Tim Ballard, the real life guy that the movie was made about.
yeah,
And a lot of people are having like charity money raising, charity donations and stuff like that, because there's a dire need for it. It's just like blown up and got out of control recently. So
right.
yeah. I mean, I totally want to be a part of that. I have a soft spot for kids. Like
Mm,
I can flip out on an adult super easy, but when I see children being mistreated, I'm like I didn't spank or smack my kids raising them. I had like these child behavior management classes, but like when I see somebody being mean to a child, and I'm like, guys, you can't expect them to be born knowing everything. It's your job to teach them. You don't get mad at them and expect them to be perfect. Hey, we're not perfect and we're adults, right? So be easy with these kids. Like if you put negativity into them, that's what's going to grow and they're going to be out of control adults. Hello. So that's why this particular issue hits me right here, because I've always had a soft spot for animals and children. They're
yeah,
so innocent,
I'm
they're
trying a
the
name.
innocent.
Okay, so Arch Sam Sai.
Okay, you want to shoot it to me in
Yeah,
the
text it to you.
chat?
He's um focusing on that battle against against human trafficking.
Okay.
And he was speaking, and I went to both of the events, one in Orlando and one in Jacksonville. And he, that's his goal, to make a lot of money and get into that fight. And
Yeah,
so, you know,
because we can't take the money with us when we go, right? So it is a tool. You want to not only be able to function in this world and provide for people, and how you want to use that to help humanity. Money is not the root of all evil. It is a tool to do good and help elevate, humanity.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So
Yeah.
yeah, he's a good source for you.
Okay.
Sam Sai, that I think that's his name. SAMSINGH. I'll send it the info. Um, his speech was pretty cool and moving.
Mm-hmm.
And he's very he's probably a very positive person. Um, very cool individual to meet. So I'll pass you his information so you can, you know, have that.
Perfect.
And then
Thank you.
because it's always better to have people that when you have your goals aligned, you have them next to you. It's good to have them, to just move with them.
Yes.
So
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And let me see what we got here. I changed everything around. Why? So any advice you have for any of the newbies that are coming in?
Um,
Anything that you would, that would help them in this venture?
yes. Um, I have not met one person that didn't feel completely overwhelmed when they first joined Subto, no matter how much experience they have.
Mm,
Even experienced investors are like, oh my gosh. It's like all of a sudden you see the little man behind the curtain when you were looking for the Wizard of Oz type thing, but there's like 100 men behind the curtain instead of one.
yeah, yeah,
So yeah, you're going to be overwhelmed and you're going to feel like for whatever reason you need to do everything yourself. And this is one thing I learned being a realtor. You cannot just jump in and do everything right away.
right.
So my two pieces of advice are: one, join a team so that they can teach you everything, or JV with people, which stands for joint venture. So you partner up on deals so the part with someone who's been doing it for a while who can teach you the ropes.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is, don't get discouraged if you don't jump right in and do a deal right away.
Mm,
I've heard several, a handful of the OGs, the original gangsters of Sub 2, say it took them, even with Pace right over their shoulder, which he doesn't have enough time to do that with all of us because there's just too many of us now, right? But even with Pace, even with a daily connection with Pace when the community was very small, it still took a handful of them that I know of at least almost a year sometimes to get their first deal. You can't, I mean, we live in a society where everything is moving so fast and we expect to get everything done like this, to jump in, do it, jump in, do it, and that's, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint.
right, right,
Those are my two pieces of advice. Give yourself some time. Don't get discouraged if you don't get a deal right away. Just keep on learning and keep on plugging at it. You're planting seeds, and plants don't just sprout up the next day after you plant a seed. It takes time. You have to water them and they have to grow and get sunlight. So um give yourself a break, give yourself some time to learn the ropes for it before you get your first deal. Be consistent. Continue, fortune is in the follow-up, continue to follow up, JV with some people so you can learn the ropes. That's golden beginner advice.
right. Well, that's cool. All right. Well, let everybody know where they can find you and how they can contact you. How can they contact you?
So you can contact me. I don't have a website yet because I'm not at that point yet. But you can find me on YouTube, Subto Shauna, This Is the Way. Shauna spelled like on the screen there. And then I also have another YouTube channel called the Gen X Files with
Mm,
Shauna and Friends. N is in the letter N.
cool.
Shauna and Friends.
Gotcha.
So these two channels are beginner channels and they're just taking off, but there's going to be a lot of stuff there within the next couple weeks. So
Mhm.
check them out and